This is my kingdom, and that's yours.
I say, it's all my kingdom.
Look at these two doofuses fighting over kingdoms.
And don't they know they're both in the same biological kingdom?
Let's talk about that.
The biological kingdoms is just a classification system that we use to classify all living things. A kingdom is made up of all living things that share a couple key characteristics or traits.
The first kingdom of life is the animal kingdom. That includes me, and that includes all of these little cuties right here. The animal kingdom is composed of multicellular organisms. What that means is that we have lots and lots of cells that are all working together. And those cells that we have a cell membrane. We're also motile. That means we can move around. Like, I can run around, I can run fast or slow, but these snails are also moving around just a lot slower. The animal kingdom is really cool, and most of it is composed of things like these guys, something called an invertebrate, which means they don't have a backbone.
Check it out, guys. This right here is an eastern box turtle, and this is part of our animal kingdom. Since it's part of the animal kingdom, we know that it is multicellular, which means it's a lot of cells working together, making tissues and forming one animal. So it's multicellular. Another characteristic of the animal kingdom is that they are heterotrophs. And that's a big word, but it just means that they are consumers of other things. So for example, this guy is going to be walking around, he's going to be hunting for snails, slugs, eating mushrooms. They are consumers of other things, and that big word is heterotroph. So that's an important part of the animal kingdom.
Animals are pretty cool, but they couldn't live here on this planet without the second kingdom of life. And that kingdom is the plant kingdom. Right now I'm walking through a forest in North Carolina that's composed entirely of plants. And chances are you're pretty close to a plant too, because they are everywhere. They're from the smallest algae in our ocean to the biggest organisms, the gigantic coastal redwoods. We couldn't exist without plants. They're awesome, but they're really different than animals. They are multicellular like us, but those cells actually have cell walls instead of cell membranes that are made of cellulose. They also are autotrophs instead of heterotrophs. That means that instead of consuming somebody else's energy, they get their own energy and they store it and they consume it later. For example, this tree, this is a sweet gum tree, or a black gum tree, I'm not exactly sure, but it takes energy from the sun in a process called photosynthesis, and it stores that energy in sugars in its leaves. And then even on a cloudy day or in the middle of winter, they can still get sugar later. Plants are awesome. They are important to us. That's where we get the oxygen. That's where they get nutrients from the soil. And they also can feed us directly. For example, this is one of my favorite plants. It's a blackberry. They're everywhere here in North Carolina. And they taste delicious. I love plants.
The third kingdom we're going to talk about is the fungal kingdom. This kingdom includes mushrooms, yeast like we use to make bread, and also molds. This kingdom is characterized by being multicellular, and they do have a cell wall, just like the plants we were talking about. But this cell wall is made of something called chitin. These guys are also consumers, but unlike animal kingdom that's going to be eating other animals or maybe plants, these guys eat dead things like a dead log, and they're going to be turning it into dirt. And we call those things decomposers that turn dead things into dirt. Let's take a look at this mushroom right here. It is an amazing member of the fungal kingdom right here. And we can see as I start to press into it, it turns a deep blue color. And maybe even if I break it open, we can see it's going to be turning a blue color. And that's a reaction that's happening in the mushroom, and it's reacting with oxygen to make it blue. Super amazing. And there's all kinds of amazing mushrooms out there. Some of them are great and we can eat them. Some of them, Jeremiah, put that down. We should never eat a mushroom that we find in the woods. But they're amazing, amazing pieces of God's creation, and that is our third kingdom, the Fungi Kingdom.
Look at this right here. This is a slime mold, and it's part of the Fungi Kingdom. So these things are important decomposers. We can see this one is growing on this pile of mulch. And this is a bunch of little roots going deep into the mulch, and they're decomposing it down into dirt. Some of these can get really big, and it's yet one single cell. So they're fascinating organisms.
I'm looking for prokaryotes.
But he's never going to find them. Because prokaryotes, the fourth kingdom of life, are incredibly small. You see this stump right here? It looks dead, but actually it's teeming with life. Prokaryote life, or as we like to call them, bacteria. If you took a microscope and zoomed in, you'd actually find that this stump is alive with more types of life than you've ever seen in your entire life. Bacteria are incredibly small. So small you need a really special microscope to see them, and they don't even have a nucleus. However, they can still move along with something called flagellum. Bacteria are awesome. They're incredibly diverse, and they help us from everything from making food to decomposing stumps to almost every part of how we use our body. We could not live without the fourth kingdom of life, prokaryotes.
Our fifth and final kingdom is the Protists Kingdom, and we might know them better by zooplankton and phytoplankton. These are tiny little organisms, just one cell, and they live in the world's oceans and lakes and large bodies of water. They're super important for our food chains because they are the base of the food chains. So a small fish might eat a Protoctist, and then a larger fish eat that fish, and we might eventually end up eating a tuna that was reliant on those Protoctists in the ocean. They're also important because they produce oxygen. 50 to 85% of the world's oxygen that we breathe comes from Protoctists.
I want to be a protected.
Whoa, Will. As cool as Protoctists are, you're better off staying as yourself. Protoctists are amazing creatures, and we rely on them for the air that we breathe and the food that we eat, and that is our fifth and final kingdom.
We learned about the 5 kingdoms of life today. Our planet is covered in so many different types of life that honestly, it can be a little bit overwhelming.
That's true, Josiah. It helps me to remember that the one God that created all these diverse things has a special place in his heart for us.
That's good, Walter. Let me read this verse from Colossians chapter 1, verse 17. And he is before all things, and in him all things hold together.
That's exactly right, Josiah. And this God that made these things, made creation, he made it so that we could enjoy it. So go out, explore these 5 kingdoms, and see what you can find out about the Creator.
And if you haven't had a chance yet, make sure to check out our other videos on our Facebook feed and our YouTube channel.